If you're like me, you've used silicone plenty of times and you've seen words like acetoxy, neutral cure, modulus, and never quite been sure what these actually mean or why they matter. But these factors make a big difference to the suitability of different types of silicone. So it is important to understand the differences to make sure that you choose the right silicone for your application, because if you make the wrong choice, you could end up with things like leaks, potentially damage to surfaces, joints that fail, and other problems. Now for silicone, you've got two cure types. You've got neutral cure and acetoxy cure, and then two modulus types being high and low. Starting with cure types, acetoxy and neutral cure. Both of these cure with just air exposure, so they will just dry. And you know when you're using acetoxy based silicone because it has a real vinegary smell, and whereas neutral cure doesn't really smell of anything at all. Now acetoxy is a much faster curing silicone than neutral cure, and the reason for this is the way it works. So acetoxy silicone releases an acid, it's acetic acid, on curing, and that basically causes the silicone to harden, it to go off quite quickly, whereas neutral cure doesn't have this. So for any time sensitive projects, acetoxy is really the preference because it dries so much quicker. Although this quick cure time can leave you with an issue where it can become tacky in just minutes. So if you're still trying to tool it and get it nice and smooth, it will go tacky and you could end up with it sticking to the tool that you're trying to smooth it off with, and potentially giving yourself quite a bad finish and having to actually redo it if you're too slow. Now this acid that acetoxy cure silicone gives off is quite a strong acid, and it can actually damage surfaces. So things like natural stone, some metals, some waterproofing materials, some bituminous materials as well. It can make them bleed, so you get this like liquid, wet, sticky bitumen. And so using an acid cure silicone in a place where you shouldn't have that, potentially in a bathroom. So in my bathroom, for example, around the shower tray, I used a classy seal, and that classy seal, where it sticks to the shower tray, the glue it uses, if you use an acid cure silicone, it can actually damage that bond and potentially give you a leak in future in the shower. So if you ever use a classy seal like me, you need to use a neutral cure silicone for it. It does actually say this in the instructions, but important thing to note. And last but not least, but the smell that acetoxy cure silicone gives off is pretty unpleasant. It's very vinegary, and if you're working late into the evening, say on a bathroom or a kitchen, something like that, actually can leave your house stinking, and your wife may not appreciate this. Whereas neutral cure silicones take a lot longer to go off and they're almost odorless. Instead, neutral cure silicone releases alcohol on curing rather than potentially damaging strong acid. And because it doesn't release this acid on curing, it's perfect for any materials where the acid could damage it. So natural stone in bathrooms or kitchens. Neutral cure silicone is actually a lot better for exterior applications than acetoxy cure, and the reason is it's a lot more weather resistant, it's a lot stronger, and it will last a lot longer outside. So anything like sealing gutters, windows, around doorways, joints in brickwork should always be neutral cure silicone, because it's just so much more weather resistant and it'll just last so much longer. One of the disadvantages of neutral cure silicone is it's quite a bit more expensive generally than the acetoxy cure. The other one is the cure time. You might not fancy waiting 24 hours to have a shower if you're sealing a new shower. It's worth noting though, if you use neutral cure silicone or even acetoxy cure silicone in the bathroom, you need to make sure that it's one that's got a fungicide in it, so they won't go mouldy over time, or at least slow down the rate of going mouldy. In summary, acetoxy cure silicone is best for interior jobs where time is a factor, and then also inside they won't be exposed to extreme temperatures or weather, so don't need that weather resistance that neutral cure silicone has. It's also a lot cheaper, so it saves you money. And then also where you've got an environment that will stand up to the acid that it releases. So for example, porcelain tiles, something that's really, really inert and strong, it's not going to get affected by the acid. And then in summary, neutral cure silicone is best for exterior applications where it needs to be more weather resistant, any applications where you can wait a bit longer for it to cure. So if you can wait for your bathroom to not have to get it wet for more than 24 hours. And then also any materials that could get damaged by acid is where you want to be using a neutral cure silicone. So natural stone, particularly bathrooms, metals like copper get affected by it as well. And then the bituminous materials and anything that's potentially a waterproofing kit in a bathroom as well. Now, once you've chosen your cure type, you need to choose your modulus, and these are high modulus or low modulus. Low modulus sealants accommodate a lot more movement, They're much more flexible, they feel softer to the touch, and they're generally best used for exterior applications, so often the seals between brickwork joints or around windows, that's the most likely place you're going to use one. Whereas high modulus silicone sealants accommodate a lot less movement, they're a lot harder to the touch, not nearly as squishy or as flexible. And where you're going to use these is in your bathrooms, your kitchens, places that are slightly higher wear and don't require the expansion and contraction that you say get from sun exposure or long-term weather exposure. High modulus acetoxy cure silicone is best used on interior, so the interior side of windows, interior side of doors, sealing around kitchen units, bathroom units, that type of thing is really where you would find these. Low modulus neutral cure silicone is best used on exterior applications, so around UPVC windows, doors, things like gutters as well can be really useful. And the reason is just the weather exposure, they just accommodate a lot more movement. And the neutral cure as well is generally a higher quality silicone with a higher silicone content. Some of the acetoxy cure ones, especially the cheaper ones, will often have other fillers and binders in them that just aren't as effective at actually making that weatherproof seal. Now the low modulus acetoxy cure silicones are some of the best all-rounders, so like this cheap no-nonsense general purpose silicone. This one is an acetoxy cure, so it's a nice quick cure, but then it's also a low modulus silicone, so it's very flexible and it will give you a lot more room for movement in terms of expansion and contraction. And these general purpose ones are suitable for a wide variety of general building purposes, sanitary, glazing interior and exterior applications, and they'll adhere to many common building materials without any trouble. However, it's important to note that these basic ones don't have the same lifespan as some of the more premium and specific products. These general purpose ones will save you a few pounds, but in the long run, they're just not really worth it. So buy a silicone that is designed for the purpose that you're using it for. There are also other non-silicone based sealants. So a very popular one is CT1, or their bathroom version that's BT1. And these all fall into a group referred to as hybrid polymers or hybrid polymer sealants. Now they tend to be quite a bit more expensive than your traditional silicone, but they do have advantages, like CT1 is actually paintable, which can be really useful depending on what you're using it for. Now whether you should choose a silicone or a hybrid polymer is quite a subjective debate and comes down to a lot of personal preference and also appetite for price. But one thing I would say about a product like CT1 is because it's designed to be an adhesive as well as a sealant, they're very sticky, and trying to tool it and get a nice finish like you want on your silicone, it's a lot harder with CT1 because your silicone tools will just stick to it. And the adhesive nature is often a reason for actually choosing these. So for example, I use CT1 to stick my shower tray in. I also use it to stick my toilet systems to the wall. And those are applications where you want a waterproof adhesive that's going to last a long time but also stays a bit soft, so it can accommodate a bit of movement. And then actually if I ever want to get them out, especially the toilet system, you can take a knife to the sealant just to get it off. Whereas actually if I use some other adhesive, it's going to be a lot harder to get it off because those tend to dry much harder, whereas the CT1 will stay soft like a silicone. Now if you're interested in seeing all the mistakes I made on my bathroom renovation, click here for this video. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more, and thank you for watching.